seeing.
Yeah, very, very good with those Pot Blossoms. Another matchup was the bot lane, Scooped and Wixie. Wixie, of course, phenomenal ADC. Scooped, able to become that assassin Kai'Sa, pulling off some great plays as well.
Yeah, working really well with the Nautilus pick there for Plux too. We saw a lot of plays where Plux was just starting things out with the Dredge line, with his ultimate, the depth charge also, and it definitely did open things up very, very well for Scoop in the late game. And we keep having that asterisk of in the late game for Revival. Because, of course, for Cloud9, they actually did win out the early game very, very heavily in all facets. We saw a few picks off from Speedo in the top lane, but the other 4 members were so astronomically ahead in every single aspect of the game that it's honestly shocking that they don't have match point right now.
And there we go, right away, off to the races, Revival. They don't even take a second to think about it. They grab that Udyr. Response from Cloud9 Amateur is going to be the Lilia and the Kai'Sa. This time it's going to be C9A with the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, and Kai'Sa was a very stellar champion for Scoop last game. We know that this is one of the best champions in the entire game for that bot lane position. So very excited to see if Wixie can have that similar performance on it. But there you go, Desrex. We do already have that mid lane blind pick. The Orianna comes through for Sudsy.
As well as the MF getting locked in. It's not something I've seen Scooped on a little bit too much. In fact, I believe I've only seen him play in ranked so far looking back at his match history, but sure to be a spicy pick. And speaking of spicy picks, Yone gets locked in, meanwhile over for C9A.
That's the good kind of spicy right there. Yone for Captain Shrimps, the aficionado for these melee champions. He's continuing that again. I want to give a quick nod that it might go to top lane, it might go to Speedo, but we're not expecting that at all, as we do see it's a response to the Orianna in that mid lane, and does pair very well with things like that Kai'Sa too, where if you do land that incredible ultimate by the end of the game, then Kai'Sa can follow up with you and be that assassination duo, and that's just the duo. We still have 2 more picks coming through for Cloud9 Amateur that could bolster that even further.
And it's nice, even though we expect it to go into the mid lane, it still is a flexible pick. Both Speedo and Captain Shrimps play it, so you still have the ability to counter pick just based off of what comes next in this draft. And speaking of the draft, Phase 2 bans coming in now. Leona, Blitz, and Nautilus going heavily after that support pool.
Yeah, and we saw in Game 1, Revival and Cloud9 Amateur both picked their supports very early on in the draft. We're getting rid of all the hook champions. I assume if they're going to continue that trend, that Thresh is going to be the next ban for Revival. Breezy was very, very good at that champion in Game 1. Honestly, Revival's taken a while. They didn't even do it. Okay, I was like, they're taking a long time to make a decision that we already know they're going to make, but they don't even make it. I am expecting the Thresh comes through for Cloud9 Amateur right now.
Yeah, waiting for that pick, C9A support role. I mean, it's Breezy. He plays a lot of the beefy boys. Alistair, Leona, Braum, Rakan, you name it. He loves engagers. And speaking of engagers, there she is. Rel gets locked in for Breezy.
Okay, I am so ready for this Rel pick. I was wondering if these supports were going to have that one in their repertoire. It is a very hard champion that was very recently released, but it seems like Breezy's going to drop that gauntlet first. Rel locked in. Rather curious that they left this Thresh up, because Thresh is a really good matchup into Rel. You can flay and deny away the dismount for Rel as she does engage. It just takes quite a long time for her to get in there. So the flay can be a really nice denial tool against the Rel. But still, it is a very powerful champion in its own right. You don't necessarily have to be the one engaging, which is really cool about Rel. If you just attach your E, the magnetism, to the Yone, then you can land those stuns from a very long distance away.
This is a very Season 2 comp coming out of Revival. I mean, Udyr, MF, Orianna, Thresh, Maokai. This is as plain and simple as it gets. This is really a team fight comp for Revival, with Udyr just being disruptor for the early to mid game.
This is a big throwback composition where we're seeing for Cloud9 Amateur where we got a bunch of Season 10 champions and even in a Season 11 one, but Revival, they're going back to their roots here on their side. So very excited about that one as Cloud9 do round out their composition with a Gnar, the top lane response to the Maokai. I really like that pick coming through. Of course, it is on red side, and red side Gnar is a lot easier to dive than blue side Gnar, but you can still get a lot of priority with that champion, and Lilia really likes priority from her solo laners.
And earlier, looking at the grand scheme of the comp of Revival, we got to look at the grand scheme of the comp of C9A because there's a lot of skirmish that comes in. There's a lot of dive potential that comes in. It's a very brutal comp to have to skirmish against.
Yeah, it feels like they can potentially go for like 5v5 team fights as well with this comp, which is really
5v5, you say?
Yeah, 5v5. We'll see what comes of this one. We're getting very dicey in game 2.
All right, here comes the bait. Make Scoop the bait. Are they going to take it? You can't see it just yet. They're coming closer. It's going to be the 5v5. We're going to get this early on. Diving on in. Breezy looking to find the engage. 5v5 level 1 fight is underway, but no one has fallen just yet. Sadly, we're going to get no kills. Ah, what a snooze fest right there. I was hoping for the action on the 5v5 invade, but no one willing to push the tempo.
We beat Game 1's record, though. Game 1 had a 4v4 team fight at 4 minutes. This game has a 5v5 team fight at 1 minute. So we're in the business of becoming quicker and more efficient. So I really like that from this one. And bonus points for Revival for not getting killed 3 times in the early game team fight on the bot side this time.
Yeah, and they lose a little bit of those bonus points because he did burn the flash of Maokai in that engage. Of course, only the offensive summoners and heal as well burn over on the side of C9A.
Yeah, the flash in top lane does mean quite a lot for this top side. We already mentioned how Speedo on this Gnar can get a lot of priority in that lane. That becomes even bigger when your lane opponent does not have flash. So expect to see XU up in that top lane very, very soon. He's already starting on those bot side camps, and Lilia does really like to go for the full clear up there. But they might be dead by the time he can even get there, as we're already seeing some heavy trading.
Yeah, the boomerang not going to land, so Speedo not going to feel confident going on with that trade. But both top laners are starting to get low. Lilia's the one who is pathing towards that top side. Meanwhile, Cyber will be pathing towards the bottom side. So we might see some action over towards this top side if they want to find a first blood. Now Speedo getting knocked back, but he will have Mega Gnar soon, so he is able to get that stun. Can Concept of X get the kill beforehand? Here comes the stun. Will not land. Q throws out. Just a wet noodle fight going on at the top side.
Not quite landing the wall up means the Concept is going to feel pretty all right about that trade. Does have his passive to keep him rather healthy, and he has the Dorn's shield too. So any one-on-one trading is going to favor him in that regard until Speedo does get some lifesteal off of the minions. But we do see that both of them do have Grasp Beyond Dying, so they're pretty fine with going for these early trades no matter what. They do get extra max HP for it, so it just makes them more powerful in reference to the rest of the game if they can get that max HP stack going very early.
And Speedo willing to take his recall right now. Lilia is over towards that top side finishing up the full clear. Do you see the roam coming out of Breezy trying to set up something over on Sudsy? Get some deep vision as well, some control over the scuttle, but now the gank is coming in. XU towards this top side. There is no flash on this Maokai. Keep that in mind. He's starting to get underneath the tower close enough. One more auto will finish it, and that's going to be first blood. XU escapes with his life.
And there it is, plain and simple. For XU, he clears all of his camps, goes straight top lane, and look at that. Concept is out of position because he doesn't have flash from the level 1. It's almost like we're really smart casters or something here, Destruct. I think we predicted this would happen a couple of minutes ago, so getting ourselves a pat on the back for that one, and congratulations to XU for going for that really nice play.
Concept of X. He's angry now as he goes right after Speedo, gets some punish in, but just forced to clean his minions. All meanwhile, it will mean the recall for Speedo, who will be able to get a better back this time. You know, he does have that first blood money, so we'll put him in an item advantage. Gonna see if he takes that teleport back as well.
Yeah, we do see XU also going for the recall, does the full Ionian boots, so the extra smite cooldown can be pretty nice. That's a nice use of those boots in this one. Helps to get the assist money also unlocked, so you can afford these high roller purchases, as Cyber is still just on the components to his respective boots. But he does have a recall off. He is going right back to farming on the Zudir as we would expect, and we're going to have to see which one of these guys does go for the early dragon this time around. We saw how impactful each and every single dragon was to that last game. We didn't even get to the dragon's soul, but each of them did mean quite a lot when it came to the team fights.
Oh yeah, we harped on that Mountain Drake so much and how important it was for Revival. Curious to see how the Drakes will affect the game this time. Concept of X Starting to roam around, trying to get some vision for himself, but you can see how much vision has been established by Cloud9 Amateur. Meanwhile, towards this top side, looking to just get as much punishment as they can towards Concept of X before that flash does come back up. You see Lilia already pathing on top side.
We do see that happening, as you mentioned. It does occur that might be a little bit of a map split if XU does decide to try to punish Concept again. He does have his flash unavailable for another 20 seconds or so, so does want to go for that gank. This is the time, but do give up positioning on the Dragon. It is going to be taken by Revival, as you can see in that picture-by-picture down there, and this is the gank attempt. No, with the bowling ball.
Trying to find it. Gonna find the Meganar. Not close enough for Wallop, so no stun to be found. A good response to come out of Revival. All meanwhile, they are able to claim the Drake for themselves.
Yeah, it's a nice try by XU, but they didn't quite have their really impactful abilities yet. Does now have level 6, so he will be very, very scary in these fights, despite his dainty appearance on this Lilia champion. So definitely look to see where he does press that R key first. Concept does have flash now, so it'd be very unlikely if it happens top lane again. You don't really get a lot from putting the Maokai that far behind, so expecting more down to this bottom side of the map where it seems like Cyber is setting up shop.
You can see right here, Speedo did crash the wave and is going to roam off towards that mid lane, be able to establish some vision. Now over towards the bot side, you can see Cloud9 Academy trying to find their way back into this. They've been doing so well in this early game, and even in the early game of game number 1. But it all fell apart. Like, you can feel it. They do have really, really good macro, but when it just came to the team fight, that team fight prowess was not there. And hopefully this macro and the comp that they've drafted, which is a very, very great skirmishing comp, can help them find that success for the early game and transition it towards the mid game. But now you're starting to see the setup right here. Concept of X, he hasn't taken a recall. So he has no items. He only has, you know, his little health pot, and that's it. So it does put him in a very, very stressful situation. He does have ult now. He's running low on mana. Meganar is going to be wasted, so most likely they're not going to look for this dive until you do get, like, Meganar back up.
And I like that you mentioned the macro here in the early game also, because it looked like Wixie and Breezy were trying to get that wave under the turret, but Cyber was there to punish. He was there to make sure that they didn't lose priority in that lane, so they didn't get a nice recall off. They didn't have the timer to rotate up to that top side, where we did see Speedo having a really nice go of things up there. As you mentioned, his Meganar was running out, but he still used it to great effect to get that wave under the turret and make sure that he gets yet another one, so Concept of X is continuing to miss those without his teleport. So the fact that they didn't get that recall timer off does mean a lot, and it's a really nice map movement there by Cyber. It means that it does allow Revival to get the first rotate up, and that might mean that Revival is the benefactor of the Rift Herald take too as they start that up.
Yeah, very, very smooth to come out of them on that rotation. I mean, Concept of X, that wave was going to crash, so you had Scooped going in very, very early to be able to catch it and not miss much of that CS. And now it's Revival looking to posture up towards this Rift Herald area, establish the vision, be able to clear out what Cloud9 has poised up. But it's going to be all 5 there, and Meganar is available. They're looking for Scoop. The Lantern comes out. Breezy on the back line. Shockwave goes out. Wixie is able to grab kill number 1. Meanwhile, the rest of Cloud9 Amateur clean up the rest. 3-0 exchange. Cloud9 Amateur finding that early game success again.
Oh my word. XU answers my question of where he's going to place his first ultimate incredibly well, and Breezy does too, answering all my questions in one. I was wondering if these teams were going to pull out the rel, if they were practiced on it. Breezy shows absolutely I am, Smax. Look how good I am on this champion. I'm going to go for a 3-man engage, land it all, and get 3 kills for my team alongside the Rift Herald. Cloud9 Amateur start off with a bang in early game yet again.
But can they transition this? That's the problem we saw last time. They are trying to set up as best as they can for this early game. They are establishing a lot of early game vision, and they are getting engaged on, meanwhile, by Captain Shrimps. But Sudsy does have the backup of Plux this time. The question really comes to me is how Cloud9 Amateur sets up this early game, and how they can set themselves up in a way that they have an objective, a goal that sets them up for the mid game to help them find that success. Just looking at their comp, obviously the goal is going to be more for that mid game skirmish. They have to keep pushing that. They have to just keep going for these early fights. They have to get the early objectives, because if they get that massive gold lead, well, that's it right there. They've played to their win condition, and it doesn't matter what scaling, what team fight comes out of Revival.
We saw how good these ultimates can be the first time around. They still have many opportunities to press them all in conjunction throughout the rest of the game, and they're setting themselves up very, very well with a gold lead yet again. Seems to be their specialty in the early game, as we're seeing some R keys pressed in the top lane. It looks like Speedo's just using that to get some more advantage in this top lane. Maybe XU going for a dive, though.
Yeah, trying to set up for this dive. Tower has quite a bit left on it, so they just want to slowly chip away at the tree. Boomerangs, range spells, whatever they can find before they finally go for it, crashing another wave into the tower. Concept is starting to run low. Will use the twisted advance, but the slow comes in. There is the sleep. Concept of X critically low. Captain Shrimps, they're going to feed this kill on over to the Yone.
Nice run by Captain Shrimps to say hello to the tree before he cuts it down. Does mean that Cloud9 Amateur gets their way of the map on the Dragon, so they make that 1-1, but another successful play on this top side does mean Concept of X is 0-3-0 in this game. I did mention, though, that Maokai is not necessarily the champion you want to put too far behind. Once he gets those items, once he gets a couple of levels under his belt, he's still the same champion. He still will be very tanky, still be just as nice for the team fights of Revival, so that might come back to bite them, but as of this moment, the advantages for Cloud9 Amateur in that top side of the map are huge.
Yeah, that's always been a consistent thing about tanks. You can gimp them as much as you want, but at the end of the day, itemization doesn't really mean too much to them other than living longer in a fight. All that matters to them is their kit and getting that team fight engaged, so completely seconding what you're saying right there. As looking for a setup over on the bot side, you do see Cyber kind of camping around this area. There's a lot of vision established for Revival, so they will be able to spot out XU, who's making rotation towards the bot side as well.
And at this time, I want to take a look at the differences between this game and the last one. Difference number one is that Cloud9 Amateur's composition is way better for team fighting this time around. They have all these ultimates that can deathball you, all of you at the same time, or just one. Depends on what Cloud9 Amateur really wants to do, as we saw in the first topside fight. Difference number two, though, is that Revival actually get the first two dragons of the game. They might potentially get that scaling on lock with the Soul if they can continue their control over that pit throughout this one. So that's something that Cloud9 Amateur do have to keep in mind. They did have a huge advantage in that early game with the dragons. This time, they've let those fall to the wayside, and they're going to have to be careful to see if that does end up being punished by Revival.
I mean, we talked about it, Smax. The Dragons were the turning point for Revival. They were one of the big things that got Revival back into this game. So Cloud9 Amateur ignoring it is definitely something that's a little bit weird. It's kind of showing that they're not learning their lessons from the game they played last time.
They are learning how to get some more plates with the Rift Herald, though, as they knock a few of those down. Not quite a third one, so not getting the extra 160 there. And with the plates falling in about 40 seconds time, they might not get that one at all. So a little bit bad about that one, but they do get the gold in the end anyway. Meanwhile, Speedo is very close to finishing the entire top lane turret right there, plates and all. We'll see if he can actually do that. Doesn't look like it, though, as Plex, Scoop, and Cyber are there to respond.
You can see it's going to be the 2-on-1 over on the bot side, 3-on-1 over towards the top side. Now Lilia going to try and even that up just a little bit more, but the exchange is there, and Concept of X is going to have a hard time defending against this. You're a Maokai. You don't have much wave clear. You're not much other than just a big tanky boy.
But that might be all he needs to be in this game, Deserex, because at the end of the day, that's really what you're drafting this Maokai for. And Concept of X does have a really nice way of playing these team fights, as we saw in the last game too, just being that frontline threat for his team, and everyone else really does fall in line very well. And they do have some of the same tools that we see in game one also. Well, same tools, different skin, I would say, as they have Shockwave instead of Pop Blossom. They have Misfortune instead of Kaisa. That one's going over to C9, but they do still have the same damage threat, and they have the same crowd control threat.
Now looking to set up over here again. Not going to find the death sentence onto Speedo, who does have the ward there. We'll be able to spot it out. Concept of X trying to clear over on the bot side. State of the game so far, still in Cloud9 Amateur's favor. They do have a 4K gold lead now. XU is trying to set up something towards this top side. A lot of damage on the Speedo. Speedo's not even anywhere close to Mega Gnar form, and getting in the bush gives him enough safety to be able to secure the kill. XU grabs one. Plux forced to just watch, but now here comes Saber, able to just show up and start wailing away with these right clicks. The knockup comes through from Captain Shrimps, who's trying to return fire, and he will do just that. A back and forth fight. Shockwave goes wide. A double kill going over to Captain Shrimps, and what a wild engage right there, resulting into a 3-for-1 in favor of C9A.
Oh, that was a fun one. It might not be over, though. Sudsy overstepping.
Ooh, we'll find the knock on the Sudsy, who flashes over the wall. Now Captain Shrimp smells blood in the water, and he will claim it, taking down Sudsy and going straight after that Rift Herald.
Ooh, we're seeing why Cloud9 Amateur are picking these Season 10 champs. They're still not done.
Teleport comes in. Concept of X trying to run away. Flashes over the wall to survive and will be able to find safety. Going for the re-engage instead. After Speedo gets the roots on, but Speedo's returning fire. And now he has Mega Gnar. You can see right there. Revival don't feel comfortable engaging when that form is available.
I can't talk.
Might eat my words there. Might eat my words right there. They're still going for it. Mega Gnar goes off and hits the backline. Scoop to start to run low. The wallop. He's unchecked. Speedo takes down Scoop, and Saber will fall as well. Going after Sudsy, who will be forced to watch all 4 members, every single one of his teammates fall. Cloud9A are in it.
Am I reading that right, Desrex? They now have 13 kills after those 2 minutes? That's insane. Cloud9 Amateur's skirmish game is off the charts, as we keep highlighting in this draft, and as the game continues, all of their ultimates coming through time and time again to land these huge fights. Look at the dash in.
Wixie is not done. He wants more. The turret's not enough. Got to pick up the Robo as well. Sudsy will fall, and Wixie picking up his first kill of the game.
Oh man, Desrex. If Revival come back from this one, I don't know. I'm just gonna retire from casting because I no longer have anything that's valuable to say at that point, because this early game is all but over for Cloud9 Amateur. It looks like they are going to attempt to take us to game 3 with this one. So many kills in just one skirmish. The death timers are short enough to where I think Concept died multiple times in the same fight, and I think Cyber did too. It's ridiculous.
And I'm really questioning what the mindset was for Revival in that last fight. I mean, they pushed for the engage while Mega Gnar was up, and Speedo was just able to hop into that backline and backhand scoop straight to the base.
Yeah, it all started with topside skirmish, right? We saw Speedo going for this trade yet again with Concept. It seems like he is very, very keen on continuing that. But again, XU and Captain Shrimps are there. We're seeing that they're, even though Maokai is on this blue side, they're able to dive him so expertly well, even though there's a giant chunk of terrain there, because they have that bowling ball for the sleep. They have Captain Shrimps with all of his terrain scaling to get over these walls, and we're now seeing the benefits of that, right? We're seeing 6 kills on a Yone. He's nearly at 2 items already in this game and takes up that entire turret. He's side laning to his heart's content. He's just going to continue farming up and being that menace.
Captain Shrimps putting on quite the display on this Yone, still going for the dive onto the tank, mind you. Will have the safety, able to escape. Breezy showing up all meanwhile. But yeah, Cloud9A looking so good. Here comes the Killer Instinct looking to go after Concept. Concept so low. Death Sentence lands, but tanking the tower is going to be Breezy. Going to buy Wixie some time. Not enough, though. Here comes the bear slap, and a kill goes through. Still more bear slaps to be had. You have one. You have one. Going after Breezy. Breezy, the Tiger Dot is not enough. XU will pick up Cyber. Plux able to grab one, and suddenly it's completely flipped here. Smacks, we can never talk too soon, man.
Oh, we absolutely can't. Watch how Plux plays this fight. He saves Concept of X by the skin of his teeth. He opens with that hook as well, and Wixie, He can't rely on Breezy to tank the turret forever either. He gets exhausted, he gets slowed up by the box, and then Plux is not done yet either. He continues locking everyone down, and he even throws out one last hook at the end of it too. Look at that. He lands it onto Breezy, flies right past XU. Plux on this Thresh. It seems like we have 2 incredible Thresh players, in this series, and I couldn't be happier about it.
I was just about to ask you a moment earlier, do you think this is it? Do you think Cloud9 have done it? Then Revival, Plux, everything goes haywire, and Revival are now back into the game. Still, they have 6K that they have to claw through, but they do have win conditions available for them. You know, Infernal Drake is going to be available in the next minute 30. That is something they can go after to set them out for Soul Point. They can at least get vision around there, and they desperately need vision around Baron as well. They do have a team fight comp, Smack, so if they get the conditions they need, if they get those ultimates lined up, if they get the wombo comboed, they can find victories.
But you see, speaking of the Baron vision, Cloud9 Amateur really getting their stuff together around that. X-Flash for Breezy, trying to find something to continue their reign of terror in this skirmish game that they have, and they're trying to make use of the Gnar bar as well. I think this one's going to fizzle out, which means that Cloud9 are going to have to back away. Mini Gnar is not nearly as good in those team fights, and that's exactly what Speedo is right now, but Cyber wants to punish.
Yeah, Cyber trying to catch out the Mini Gnar. Speedo able to back up, just a simple little jump right there. Now the line of skirmish drawn once again on one side, Revival on the other, Cloud9. Drake spawning within 35 seconds, and Cyber is trying to push that momentum. He knows Breezy's alone right now, but XU is over that wall in wait. Now Sudsy might be caught out over the wall. Here comes Breezy looking for the engage. Killer Itzy goes out. Cyber meanwhile goes straight after Wixie, trying to lock him down as the bullet time goes through. Gets so much damage, and the flash forward from Scoop is gonna find 2 kills over to the squad. A Revival Plux goes in, but Wixie is able to find revenge, gets dropped all meanwhile, and the damage is there. Revival are gonna find their comeback, a triple kill, make it the quadra kill for Scooped. Revival, they have risen to the occasion.
How do they keep getting away with this, Esrux? I don't understand. We see Cloud9 Amateur go for this fight yet again. They have their R buttons available, and Breezy gets antsy. He goes for it right away, but he only lands his engage onto one member. Watch what Breezy does in this fight. They see that he's being engaged upon. He knows that XU is in position. He goes for this engage, but Scooped expertly dodges out of that with the flash, and then he lines up for the bullet time onto all 3 members. Even the locket is not enough for the reign of bullet terror from Scoop, and then it leads to him just cleaning up the rest of this fight with the quadruple. I love this ultimate from Shrimps, though. This made me audibly gasp. I'm sure you heard it, but it's just not enough at the end of the day. Cloud9 Amateur just jumped the gun way too hard, and Shrimp showing up late does cost them huge in that fight. They do try to stop this Baron. It looks like they did stop it, but can't find any kills yet.
And now Cloud9, they still have the gold lead, about 5K separating these teams, so Cloud9 pushing ahead. They know they can take a lot of these skirmishes and outright team fights. It gets swapped on its head. Scooped with the bullet time has been working wonders, as well as his positioning in this mid game. Did have a rough early game, but he's starting to shine now. And you can see the wards being placed all over this Baron area. I'm not sure if C9A are too prone to contest this in an outright team fight. You really want to spread and divide Revival.
They do have their R buttons up, so if they can find some organized way of doing so, then I feel like Cloud9 can still get back into this. But we are starting to see why Revival was a finalist in the previous tournament yesterday for Big. We're seeing that they keep their heads on a swivel. They keep their mental fortitude alive in this late game situation, even though they're down so ridiculously heavily in the early game. I said it twice now in this series that I thought Cloud9 Amateur were just going to win the game outright. Revival proved me wrong again in game 2. I should have listened to myself after game 1, but I didn't, because Cloud9 Amateur got my hopes up. They got my hype up to a 10. But man, Revival have these really, really good responses, and they even have Drake Soul Point in this game, even though they were down super, super heavily and early.
Their team fight and skirmish is just so coordinated. They know how to back up. They know how to utilize their resources and just work together as a team. The shockwave was beautiful. The bullet times have been beautiful. And Cyber's been doing his role, which is just complete nuisance to perfection onto Weeksy. So it's great play coming out of Revival. And now it's up to Cloud9 to start making the proactive moves to try and get their way back in.
You can see before they do that, though, they are taking a step back. They're calling a timeout. They're like, all right, we lost 2 fights in a row. how did we let this happen? We gotta wait for a second. We gotta think about what we're gonna do in this game because we do not want to give Revival the Infernal Soul. That would make the fights even worse for Cloud9. Yes, they're still up about 5,000 gold, but you saw the fights. I saw the fights. We all saw it. We know that Revival are still capable of winning each and every time. So Cloud9 Amateur have to be very careful right now. They're setting up all this vision around this Baron. They want to make sure that they don't get scrambled up again.
Now you can see C9A, they're going to play the teleport game here. Sending Speedo over towards the bot side to try and get a split push going.
Ooh.
And now starting the Baron. All meanwhile, you do have teleport available for Speedo. If they do force this, he should be able to show up with Meganar. And that's what you're seeing right now. Teleport coming out. Meganar is available. Plux stands there to just run disruption. Captain Shrimps able to join, and now it's going to be a 5-on-5. Baron is getting low. 3k health remains. Captain Shrimps over the wall. Looking to find it on the Scoop. He's able to get the knockup, get the disruption, stop the bullet time, but Scooped will find more. He takes down Weeksy. Breezy will follow, and Cloud9 Amateur, they just don't know when to stop. Revival are tearing this apart.
They absolutely don't, Deserex. They do get a Baron in the end, but exactly like you mentioned, I couldn't have said it better myself. They don't know when to quit when it comes to these fights. Yes, they have all of their ultimates available, but Speedo's Rage Bar is stalled out. Captain Shrimps has a really nice flank onto Scoop, but nobody is there to follow it up. They don't turn off of the Baron at all. And Breezy actually gets his jump denied, too. He casts his ultimate, he casts his dismount, but he doesn't make it over the wall. So he's just left to die in the pit. Luckily for Cloud9, the smite reigns true for XU, so they do walk away with the big purple worm buff. But still, another fight goes over to Revival, and this can't keep happening if Cloud9 Amateur want to go to Game 3.
And at the end of the day, all the Baron's really going to do at this stage of the game for C9A is just stall it out. And stalling still helps more for a team fight composition like what you have with Revival. Death Sentence onto Breezy, not willing to follow up with the engage. And you can see right now Revival have their eyes set on that Dragon Soul. That is the win condition they want to go for, and that is what they're establishing vision for.
You have to be careful not to get engaged on, though. Breezy didn't use his flash, so he still has that huge engage tool. The R buttons are almost available for Captain Shrimps also. Nice hook.
The hook goes in. Death Sentence as well. Scoop will be able to pick it on the side with the bullet time. Takes the lantern. Meganar is going to be available. Speedo's looking to try and press the engage. Waiting for the ult to go out. Finds 3, but doesn't get it onto the wall. Scooped is low. Goes golden. Weeksy finds 1. He should be able to find 2. It's going to be a shutdown going over to Speedo. Cloud9 Amateur are fighting tooth and nail to get back into this. Sudsy is getting his damage in. The ball going back and forth. Retracted, shielded, command attack comes out again. Here comes Captain Shrimps to try and be the cleanup crew, but the blast plant works against him as Cloud9 Amateur find a team fight win.
And finally, they're using their ultimates together. They actually do have a coordinated fight. It does start out with Plux landing an expert hook right away onto XU, so he's not a part of this team fight at all. But you can see on this other side, Cyber's cut off from the rest of his team. There's no dark passage for him. He gets engaged on, and from there, there's no Udyr, there's no frontline, and there's no smite to be had. So it's full-on retreat from Revival. They can't get anything else, and they do lose Scoop in the process alongside it. So we're seeing the Cloud9 Amateur are still clawing their way back in, like you said. And it's crazy that they're even clawing their way back. It's crazy that I'm even saying that because they're so far ahead in the gold.
They are so far ahead, but you wouldn't guess it if you didn't see that goal, Lee. If you didn't see those stats right now. That's how well Revival has been playing these skirmishes in the micro game, pretty much.
Yeah, the micro is really good. I have been very impressed with Flux's Thresh. I'm taking notes on the side right now. I'm seeing what I can do in my own solo queue games. I'm Mastery 7 on Thresh, but Flux has got to be Mastery 12 or something in this game. This is pretty nuts.
Beautiful, beautiful display to come out of both of these squads. They've shown their highlight moments. Dragon picked up earlier by C9A, so denying that Dragon Soul that Revival's been waiting so much for, so desperately for, to be able to get that condition. But now it's really C9A in the driver's seat. You can see they're the one putting the forward momentum. They're the ones in the jungle of Revival.
They don't have their Baron buff anymore. It did expire about 40 seconds ago, but They're still trying to get this push on lock. They don't have the teleport of Speedo yet, so he can't quite go down to that bottom side in case they need him for a fight, and they desperately do. Cloud9 Amateur do not want to take any outnumbered fights. They've learned their lesson, hopefully, is in this entire series, as it's been punished many, many times, and it's pulled the rug out from under them many times as well. They're at match point against Revival too. Revival, if they win this one, then the series is just over. So Cloud9 Amateur do need to just keep themselves afloat. They need to keep themselves in these fights. And now that Speedo does have teleport after a few more seconds, they can still do that and control this bot side.
I'm a little bit interested in what the intent of the movement here is coming out from C9A. It does look like they're just trying to set up vision to get Speedo to be able to freely split push, but they are giving up a lot of control towards that Baron side, and Baron is another minute 20 from spawning, and that is definitely going to be the next big skirmishing point. But instead, C9A, they get control over here, and they're just going to take the recalls after crashing the wave of Speedo.
Yeah, both teams really want that dragon, or the Baron, excuse me. The dragon is more important for Revival to take when that does spawn, but they're about a minute's time apart. So, like you mentioned, it is very likely that we're going to be seeing the huge game-defining team fight around this Baron, and it's still anyone's game when it comes to that one, even though the stats would tell you otherwise. We've seen how resilient Revival are when it comes to the 5v5. We've seen just how good they are at just pulling these victories out from under their opponents. So crazy that they are even able to do it, but they are, and I am astounded every time.
And now posturing up. Is it time for the good old North American ARAM? That's my question as we come up 20 seconds until the Baron just clearing the waves in the mid lane. All meanwhile, as they set up for the next major objective. See, the vision control fight is going to start to play out. Cyber just looking to clear out that control ward, and you can see on the flank Speedo trying to find that position where he can possibly get a Mega Gnar in or just teleport in on the flank.
Okay, sitting at about 6%, so once he starts hitting that minion wave, he can reserve his rage up until he does need to teleport.
And they do got a good flank ward over.
Yeah.
He's going it. Brush, but here we go. Breezy goes in, able to find it onto 4 men. C9A with the engage. They'll find Scoop. They'll find Sudsy. They'll find the team fight win. Here comes Wixie with the triple kill, able to get even more 4 members down, and that might have been all she wrote right then and there. Only Plux remains.
Oh, it's a quadra kill too. Can they get the penta? I don't know. Plux does have the way of the plant on his side. He does get away from that one right now, but his turrets can't run. They can't hide at all, and they're being taken by Cloud9 Amateur.
And the inhibitor under attack. Revival trying their best to defend this, but all you have is Plux, and the respawn timers are far too deep. That is the ace going through, and with both Nexus towers fallen, Smacks, I love to say it, we got a series on our hands.
We do have a series, but I think we were scammed because Wixie got the unofficial penta and it didn't tell us. He got 5 kills in that fight. Just say pentakill, please, announcer. That's all we want. Look at what he's able to do in this fight as well. He dodges out from the engage from Sudsy too, and they just have all their R buttons. This is what I was hoping to see the entire time. We saw it one time at the very early game when they just hit level 6, and this is the second time we're seeing it. This is how deadly it can be, but it feels like Cloud9 didn't quite find it for the rest of the game until this point. I'm glad that they did eventually get back on their feet, and I'm glad that they did eventually take us to game 3.
Yeah, that was intense. Breezy with that ultimate engage. That was some beautiful stuff. And I mean, we talked about so much about the team fight comp that we're supposed to have on the side of Revival. Well, if you get an engage like that, that is Wombo Combo City, and it's going to be C9A who end up taking that team fight. It was pristine. Breezy is definitely a stud when it comes to C9A and being their shot caller.